In daily life, whether at work, in our homes, or in the world of online interactions, many people lose their self-command when they face pressure. Some individuals panic and make hurried decisions. Others give up entirely, believing they have no power over their situation. Still others react in anger or frustration, lashing out at others. Yet there remains a smaller group who behave differently. They stay steady. Why does this difference exist? It is because those who remain steady have trained their minds in a fundamentally different way. They do not see pressure in the same way that the majority do. They have learned to distinguish what is truly harmful from what is merely uncomfortable. They have learned to rule themselves. One of the clearest teachers of this kind of mental strength was Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who lived approximately 2,000 years ago. Born into slavery, crippled by abuse, and later exiled by an emperor, Epictetus had every possible excuse to collapse under pressure. Yet he did not. Instead, he developed a philosophy that allowed him to maintain inner freedom no matter how the outer world shifted against him. His basic teaching was direct and practical. It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. In this video, we will look carefully at how to distinguish what you can control from what you cannot, how to master your emotional responses to stress, and how to use adversity to strengthen yourself rather than break yourself. Most people never notice how they lose control, but those who learn to see it can change. If you're ready to stop being directed by every event and start directing yourself, keep watching. Epictetus teaches that the first essential step in mental training is making a firm and clear distinction between what lies within your power and what lies outside it. This distinction must become second nature. There are things that are fully within your control, your own thoughts, your decisions, and your actions. No one else can dictate how you choose to think, what you decide to pursue, or what actions you ultimately take. On the other hand, there are many things that are not within your control. You cannot fully control your body. Illness, injury, aging are inevitable. You cannot fully control your possessions. They can be taken from you, destroyed, or lost. You cannot fully control your reputation. What others think of you lies outside your direct influence. Nor can you control the broad course of external events in the world. When you tie your happiness to things that are not truly yours to command, you make yourself weak. You hand over your peace of mind to forces that are indifferent to your well-being. Real freedom, according to Epictetus, comes from a different approach. It comes from focusing your care and attention only on those things that are truly yours, your own thoughts, choices, and actions. Nothing else deserves the right to determine whether you are at peace. Everyone, at some point, will encounter setbacks. Losing a job, receiving criticism, facing illness or financial trouble. These are common experiences. However, Epictetus points out that these events, by themselves, do not damage us. What causes suffering is not the event itself, but our judgment about the event. If you immediately think, "This is a catastrophe," you will experience it as one. If you think instead, "This is difficult but not the end of me," you will experience it differently. He expresses this idea plainly. Men are disturbed not by things but by the views they take of them. When you recognize that it is your own interpretation that determines your emotional state, you begin to see where real change must happen. You cannot always control external events, but you can always examine and adjust your judgments. Your first reaction is often not the truth. It is just a habit. Learning to pause, to question, and to adjust your thinking is at the heart of mental resilience. Epictetus likens the mind to a city protected by gates. In an untrained mind, the gates are wide open, and any thought, any fear, any anger is allowed to enter and take control. The trained mind places a guard at the gate. Whenever a new impression or feeling arises, you must interrogate it carefully. You must ask, Is this something within my control or not? If it concerns something outside your control, you should recognize that it does not deserve your emotional investment. You must ask, does believing this help me act with honesty, courage, and kindness? If it does not, you must discard it. If you discover that a thought is simply emotional noise, rooted in fear, vanity, or anger, you must not allow it to drive your behavior. Training your mind in this way requires daily effort. You must practice observing your thoughts before you act on them, especially when under pressure. In doing so, you build a mental habit of responding rather than reacting. Some people mistakenly think that Stoicism teaches passivity, the idea that one should do nothing in the face of hardship. This is a deep misunderstanding. Epictetus clarifies that the Stoic strives to excel in everything that is under his control. He uses the example of an archer. The archer focuses entirely on his own aim, his technique, and his concentration. He prepares with full dedication. Yet once he lets the arrow fly, the result depends not only on him, but also on factors like the wind or the movement of the target. The Stoic accepts that the outcome is uncertain, but he never accepts carelessness in his own preparation. He works on himself fully and accepts external outcomes calmly. This attitude frees a person from anxiety and paralysis. Instead of worrying about whether they will succeed, they focus on making themselves excellent. Stoics do not believe that you should cut yourself off from love, from relationships, or from meaningful work. Far from it. They believe in full engagement with life. However, they teach that you must engage with awareness. Everything you cherish, your friends, your family, your health, your achievements, is subject to change and loss. Nothing in the world is permanent. Epictetus reminds us, when you kiss your child, say to yourself, tomorrow you may die. This is not meant to encourage detachment in the sense of coldness. It is meant to sharpen your appreciation. When you remember that life is fragile, you love more fully, without illusions. You enjoy the good things life offers, but you do not cling to them desperately, nor do you collapse when they are taken from you. When your sense of happiness is based only on your own integrity, your ability to think clearly and act rightly, you become independent of the world. You cannot be bribed, because you do not crave external rewards. You cannot be intimidated, because you do not fear external punishments. You cannot be broken, because your sense of who you are rests entirely within your own choices. Most people think power comes from controlling others. Epictetus shows that real power comes from controlling yourself. The person who needs nothing from the outside world to be at peace is the strongest of all. No one escapes pain, loss, or death. These are conditions of human life. But while you cannot avoid these hardships, you can choose how you meet them. Epictetus himself, crippled by a broken leg early in life, responded with composure. He famously taught, "I must die. Must I die bawling?" You have a choice at every moment, to meet difficulty with panic, despair, or self-pity, or to meet it with courage and reason. Even in the most difficult moments, your will remains free. The world can wound your body. It cannot wound your character unless you permit it. Training your mind to stay solid under pressure is not a talent you are born with. It is a discipline you build over time through attention, effort, and honesty with yourself. You must learn to make a firm distinction between what is within your power and what is not. You must practice examining your judgments so that you are not ruled by fear, anger, or vanity. You must work diligently on your own character and accept the outcomes of the world without bitterness. You must love and engage with life while remaining aware of its impermanence. You must build your happiness on the solid foundation of your own virtue. And when suffering comes, as it inevitably will, you must remember that your dignity depends not on what happens to you, but on how you meet it. This is the Stoic way. Epictetus lived it fully, proving that even a man born into slavery could achieve a freedom greater than that of any emperor. Everything begins when you take responsibility for the one thing that is truly yours, your own mind. If something in you feels different now, subscribe and stay close.